So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you happen to be in the world today, welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, broadcasting, podcasting out of Atlanta, Monday through Friday on YouTube at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is at Coffee Talk Live or at Prepper University on YouTube, simultaneously broadcasting, as well as at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, if you care to look for me there, as well as Fistful of Radio. That is fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. So welcome one and all as we get ready to talk about what is going on in the world today, taking a look at some snippets from the news and having a little bit of a discussion about it as reasonably as is possible. And of course, for the benefit of those of you who are listening and not able to see what is going on, hi, I will read through as many of the comments as is reasonable. And with that, I will go ahead and acknowledge some of the people who are chiming in thus far. I see Donna Beaver is here. Says, remember to thumbs up, like, and share. Yes, please do. If you don't mind, that would help a great deal. I see Doc Galt is here. He said he hit the like button. Much appreciated. Michael is here from the Peach State. Helter, Dragon, Boogers is joining us so far. Puck is here. Atlanta, sorry to hear that. Well, I'm not in Atlanta, but I am in Georgia, and Fistful of Radio podcasts out of Atlanta. So close enough. Velvet Pilot is here, and Vamp is here, aka Jeffrey, as well as all people chiming in thus far, throwing their hat in the ring, as it were. Visited today by, or being kept company by Dusty, sleeping in the chair behind me, and Miss Granny Smith is actually underneath me here. You can't see her. Hi, Granny. If you say her name, she looks at you. They know who they are. They will respond to their names. So as we get ready to get started here, top of the afternoon. Well, it's afternoon where I am. It may be different for you, but top of the afternoon, the big story today, if you haven't seen it, is an arrest at the border. Yes, they actually arrested someone. They actually did their job. They didn't have much of a choice under the circumstances with this particular character. Hopefully this is working out. And Brian did something there. Well, Brian made a $15 donation to the channel, and the rest of it is for something else. Brian wanted to buy something from me. So thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Much appreciated. Be sure to email me your mailing address, and I will take care of that. Much appreciated. But Trendy Digests, they could not get away from having to deal with this. Arrest of alleged Hezbollah operative at U.S.-Mexico border signals escalating security concerns. It's been a security concern for years. It's been especially the last 3 years. Now you want to act like there's a problem? But listen to what goes on in this article. A Lebanese man identified as Basel Ibadi, if I pronounce that correctly, was apprehended by U.S. Border Patrol agents on March 9th near the U.S.-Mexico border. He was attempting to clandestinely enter the United States and admitted to being a member of Hezbollah, the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group designated as a terrorist organization by the United States. The arrest has raised alarm about the presence of foreign terror-linked individuals trying to exploit vulnerabilities in U.S. border security. Now, this has been going on anyways. And what they do is they label these kind of people as a, quote, special interest alien. That's what they call them, a special interest alien. And then they cut them loose anyway. But they couldn't let this guy go. They couldn't let Ibadi go. You know why? Listen to this. Ibadi, age 22, revealed his intentions to make his way to New York City with the aim of constructing a bomb. He told him what he was going to do. You got to love it. During his custody, he mentioned, "I'm going to try to make a bomb," a statement that prompted immediate isolation and referral for an interview with the Tactical Terrorism Response Team on grounds of making terroristic threats. Further interrogation shed light on Ibadi's extensive past with Hezbollah, stating in a sworn interview that he trained with the group for 7 years and subsequently served an active role guarding weapons locations for another 4 years. His training included jihad and the targeting of non-Muslim individuals, raising serious concerns about his intentions upon entry into the United States. Ibadi's attempt to cross the border did not occur in isolation. Federal data indicates a surge in migrants whose names appear on the terror watch list within the first 4 months of 2024. Alone, 59 individuals on the watch list have been detained at U.S. borders, underscoring a significant uptake from previous years. Okay, you detained them at the border, but then what did you do afterwards? What did you do afterwards? Label him as a special interest alien and then give him a plane ticket to Chicago? What did you do? The incident comes against the backdrop of expert testimony before the U.S. House Committee on Homeland Security about the Iranian regime's threats. In the wake of Tehran's campaign of terrorism against Israel and its U.S. allies, experts have highlighted the wide-reaching implications of Iran's support for militant proxies, including attempted assassinations on American soil and plots to exploit border vulnerabilities. The border's been vulnerable. Even if you do get caught, they're going to let you go anyway under most circumstances, unless you're so emboldened that you're literally going to sit there and say, "Oh yes, I am literally wanting to go to New York so I can blow something up," which is what this nitwit did. He literally said he spent half of his life training with Hezbollah, and then he admits he wants to. "Well, my big dream is to go to New York and make a bomb." There you go. Let me catch up a few comments here. Raccoon is here. Fluke Man has joined us as well. And Puck says one guy out of how many? Thousands. When I read the article, I think it was in October, that in the last 3 years to that point, since the Biden administration, since the executive order that took the restrictions off the border and ordered them to stand down, that something like 74,000 special interest aliens had crossed the border. So they had already, by October, let 74,000 people like this in and did nothing about it because they weren't allowed to keep them. We could detain them and interrogate them, and unless they said something really stupid, they had to let them go. This guy just happens to be one of the really stupid ones. I see Semper Fi is here, as well as D-Lo. Thanks for joining us today. Doc says we have a border security problem. What is Congress worried about? Banning Twitter. I know. And Puck says apparently the FBI didn't coach this guy very well. Don't say bomb during the interview. Yeah, I know, huh? And Marvel Fan is here. Glad you could make it. Helter says at some point with these open borders, a string of events will happen and the news will act dumbfounded as to why it's happening. But they will never look on or point to Biden's presidency. Yeah, that's possible. That is possible. But Yellow, I don't understand what happened. Suddenly it's Invasion USA. You remember if you saw the film, it was a Chuck Norris movie. They're literally walking down the street in like a mall or something, and they're throwing hand grenades into the doors of the stores and blowing them up. Monkey says, bet the guy wanted to really test the water to see what he can get away with. And well, that statement didn't get him far. Nope, apparently not. At least he's honest. I'll give him that. You got to give him a point for honesty. Dragon says this is what they want so the government can take more rights away to protect you. I know. That's really what it boils down to, isn't it, Dragon? Oh, please keep me safe. I'm so scared. I'm so afraid. I'm afraid. Why? Because you've taken away so many of my rights. I can't defend myself. I can't legally defend myself. If I did have to seriously injure or kill somebody, I'll be in court for the next 2 years explaining it. Yeah, I mean, give me a break. Give me a damn break. And then you get all these people that are so terrified, wishy-washy, that they'll accept anything. They'll accept anything for this illusion of safety, and they're not safe. They are not safe at all. Bye, Granny Smith. You leaving? Oh, Granny Smith has left the room. And Puck says they were just about to hand this guy a free plane ticket and his gift card too. Yeah, I know. He had his little gift bag. I wonder if it comes in a little gift bag, like when you give somebody a birthday present or a Christmas present, a little foil bag with the little rope handle on it, happy birthday. And inside you got a cell phone, a $5,000 gift card, and a plane ticket to wherever the hell you want. Wouldn't that be lovely? Can I have one of those? I really could use one. I can't. I don't know if I can get on the plane though. You remember when I got in trouble with the IRS, they sent me. They sent a letter saying that they were profiling me to the Department of Homeland Security, so I can't get on a flight. Like, where am I going to go? I don't know if that's still standing. I don't know, and I'm not going to ask them either because I don't want to talk to them. They can't tell you anything anyways. If you call the IRS and ask them anything, they won't answer your questions. They legally don't have to answer your questions. Isn't that scary? That should scare you right there. That should scare you right there. So yeah, this is the type of people. That's just one example. That's just one guy that they had to hold on to, and the story leaked. The story got out there. Hey, this guy literally sat there and said, "Yes, I'm going to blow something up. I want to build a bomb. Can I get my ticket to New York now? Come on, buddy. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Can I get my free ticket? Where is my gift card? I want my health insurance." It's it's I gotta laugh. It's sad though. It's sad that this is what's going on, but I gotta laugh at the absurdity of it. I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but if nothing else, I'm good at pointing out the obvious. To me, it's all obvious. It's all obvious. And, trying to explain it to other people, not so simple. Because as you all know, you know what I'm going to say? Most people, they're not that smart. They're really not. Or who was it? Who was it that used to call people low information voters? I can't remember his name. Somebody knows who that is. Low information voters. That's the problem. We got too many low information voters, and that was his nice way of saying people are dumb. That's what that was. Brian says, "I think you're bright and smart." I try. I try. I do try. But it's not that hard. It starts with being honest. Honest. Try to be as honest as you can. You don't need to lie. There's so many things that people lie about, and they do not need to. Following up on Tyson, I threw Tyson under the bus last week, and this is a Newsweek article. And as you recall, Tyson apparently intends to virtue signal by offering to hire 52,000 illegal immigrants to work in their plants, in their poultry plants. And I called them on it because they've been doing this for decades anyways. Only this time it's going to be legal for them to hire these people. It's cheap. It was been cheaper for them in the past to give them the shit jobs in the chicken plants and pay them under the table and then just get in trouble with the federal government, with the FDA or whoever, or immigration, and just write them a check to brush them off, because that's all it takes. I've seen it in real time. Again, I used to work for a mental health clinic. My wife and I both, not a clinic, but it was an in-house facility. These were inpatients, and my wife and I both worked there. And if something shady was going on and they got reported, they would just get a big fat fine and pay it and go on like nothing happened. And some of those fines were huge, huge. I think one time they said they were fined $22,000 by the state. And they're like, yeah, let's write a check, because they make so much, it's negligible. Tyson's the same way. Yeah, we put illegals in here all the time. Yeah, we'll write off that check. Here you go, FDA. Here you go, Department of Immigration. No big deal. But now, because of this whole charitable thing that's going on, they can actually do this legally. And we're trying to do our part, and we're going to give these illegals a job. They already work here, but we're going to give them a job. And now it's going to blow up in their face, because here we go. Tyson Foods faces boycott after report claims company is hiring migrants. And again, they already were anyways. Now they're just trying to virtue signal and act like they're so sweet and kind and lovable. Tyson Foods is facing boycott calls following a report that the company planned to hire migrants to work at its facilities. Conservatives reacted with outrage to a now retracted Scripps News article claiming that the company was hiring some of the asylum seekers who arrived in New York City. However, a spokesman for Tyson Foods told Newsweek the figure presented in that retracted article were inaccurate. So now they're going to pretend like they weren't hiring as many as they were, but they're not denying that they were hiring these people. That's basically what that means. Tyson Foods responded to the boycott calls in this statement. In recent days, there has been a lot of misinformation in the media about our company, and we feel compelled to set the record straight. Tyson Foods is strongly opposed to illegal immigration, and we led the way in participating in the two major government programs to help employers combat unlawful employment, E-Verify, and the mutual agreement between government and employers program, the statement reads. It continues, since being founded in 1935 in Arkansas, Tyson Foods has created jobs and employed millions of people in states all across America. Today, Tyson Foods employs 120,000 team members in the U.S., all of whom are required to be legally authorized to work in the country. We have a history of strong hiring practices, and anybody who's legally able is welcome to apply to open job listings. Yeah, 120,000 people that are legally on the payroll. What about the ones you hire under the table? Plus the fact that they closed what? Does it say anything about it in this article? I'm skipping ahead here. Yeah, it does. Tyson is closing a facility in Parody, Iowa, and laying off 1,200 workers. Instead, they plan to hire thousands of new illegals in states like New York. Pass it on, posted the Popular X user. Yeah, because they closed like 6 plants in the last couple of years, right? They shut down like 6 locations, if I'm not mistaken. And let me jump back to the comments here real quick and try to catch up. Flukeman says how people from outside the West classification evolved over the many, many decades. Foreigners, immigrants, and special aliens. Give it another couple of decades, we'll call them citizens. Urban is here. Glad you could make it. And Mark says, was it Rush Limbaugh? I think you might be right. I think it was Rush Limbaugh. J40 says those who hire illegals should be put in prison. Well, they're not going to be put in prison, but you can boycott their services. You don't have to buy anything from Tyson. If you do, I don't. But, just saying. Urban says, remember when population replacement was just a conspiracy theory? Yeah. Take that foil hat off and replace it with a crown, Urban. It's no longer a conspiracy theory hat. It's a crown of knowledge. Doc says Tyson isn't the only one. Yeah. And Mark says, thought so he's rolling in his grave now, talking about Rush Limbaugh there. And Mark says, was that in Illinois? Was what in Illinois? Was what in Illinois? Please be more specific. And Puck says, I miss Rush. A lot of people miss Rush. Doc Galt says Starbucks, Coca-Cola, and several others are doing the same thing. That's right. And Monkey says the boycott won't work when there's an entity funding DEI, Bridge 2.0, to keep them going, and will still keep on going with or without profit loss. Well, if they're going to do that through a federal program, they're going to get a kickback, a big one. So they can ride it out until people forget about the boycott and start buying the product again. Basically, as I catch up here a little bit. Brian says liberals twisting words when they said migrants and not illegal migrants. What a surprise. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Mark, I should have realized mental health care. That was actually in Georgia. That my wife and I worked for the mental health facility. And they were all inpatients. Some of them were actually pretty dangerous, which is why they were inpatients. They were either totally helpless or they were dangerous. And so they needed to be watched all the time. And yeah, I mean, they get in trouble. That's one of the main reasons we left, because there's nothing you can do. If something illegal is going on, oh, be transparent and tell the truth and contact someone from the state and tell this and that, and yeah, be a whistleblower and pat yourself on the back, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So, you can report it, and hopefully they won't find out it's you, because you'll lose your job and you'll never work there again or in any field associated, because that's what happens to whistleblowers. But yeah, I mean, at one point, they got a $22,000 fine. And like I said, they just wrote a check for it. They were like, yeah, it's not that bad. Are you serious? Some people don't make that much in a year. Helter says most people want to boycott Tyson but don't even know how. They will still eat fast food that comes from Tyson. Yeah, and that's one of the big problems when you have these companies that are under this massive umbrella, which, it came to my understanding years and years ago when I worked for Frito-Lay. And of course, Frito-Lay is owned by PepsiCo, which is part of Yum Foods International. And it branches out all over the place, Tropicana. They're connected to so many different companies and organizations that you could be buying something from them and you don't even realize it. You don't even realize it. As we shift around here. Oh yeah. We're gonna kick USA Today in the teeth again here, I think. And Paul is here. Thanks you could join us. Glad you could join us. Mark says, gotcha, I had one on Saturday here transporting a felon. He's in summons, and OP, can you give it to him? Not my job. Yeah. Urban says, under communism, there is only one company, the government. Yeah, no kidding. And you see how well that works out. Just ask anybody who lived in the former Soviet Union. As we shift around here, and I want to say this is a USA Today article trying to fact check something again. And so I'm going to expose their fact check again. Because you know how they like to fact check something else rather than what it looks like they're fact checking, and then it doesn't make any damn sense. So false claim that federal work study program involves bribing voters. And you might recall that we talked about that a couple of weeks back, that there is a program funded through public schools. No, that's the other one. But yeah, there's a program where they are paying students to encourage other people to vote and to take party interests. And the article says the claim Kamala Harris said Democrats will use taxpayer money to bribe voters. A February 28th Instagram video shows a Fox News clip of Vice President Kamala Harris speaking about a way for college students to earn money. Federal work study program now allows students to get paid through federal work study to register people and to be nonpartisan poll workers, Harrison says. Part of the on-screen text says Democrats using taxpayer dollars to bribe voters. Our rating is false. The federal work study program described by Harris in the video allows college students to be paid to register voters and work as nonpartisan poll workers. Program funds are not being spent to bribe voters. It is illegal for participants in the program to be paid for work benefiting a political party. Yeah, so they're not paying the people that these, quote, employees, the students, college students right here, that are paid to register voters are not in turn paying the registries, the people that are registering, but they are being paid, and they are being paid by the through the executive branch of the government, which is a Democratic branch, and they are hiring Democratic left-leaning college students to do it. So USA Today, they're not paying voters, but that's not the problem. So you fact check something different. The problem is that you are paying what would otherwise be student college political volunteers, which is still a conflict of interest. You got to be really careful with the wording on a lot of this stuff. Fluke Man said you would literally have to go back to the 1800s to boycott a giant company, but we're too dependent on them, and we all know it. Yeah, and a big point about that too is if you go in the supermarket and you just look around, probably 80 to 85% of what's in the supermarket is owned by, I think, 7 companies that over the years have each merged or bought another out until they turned into these massive global entities. There's very few small time or independent companies represented within the supermarket, within foods and manufacturing of foods. There's very, very few. And you can see the influence. You can really see the influence if you know where to look or how to look. And I've used Tom's of Maine as an example. Tom's of Maine, of course, makes natural products for toiletries. They make toothpaste and mouthwash and stuff like this, right? And Tom's of Maine used to not be recommended. So like if you went to the dentist and you told them that you use Tom's of Maine, they're like, no, well, we don't recommend that. They recommend some other brand that is ADA accredited. Then I think it was at Procter and Gamble. I forget who bought them. Tom's of Maine sold out, was purchased by a giant company like Crest or someone. I forget who purchased them. Then all of a sudden, it is ADA approved. Oh yeah, without changing a thing. The formula didn't change. The company changed. And now that you're connected with a more powerful company, oh, yeah, sure. Tom's of Maine, that's fine. It's ADA accredited. Way to go. That's how it works. J40 says capitalism is better than communism. When it gets monopolistic, it can be just as controlling. Yeah, it is better than communism. But as it gets bigger and bigger, it becomes more dangerous. Which is what, again, the original Rollerball film starring James Caan is about. Because you remember there are no governments in that reality, in that post-apocalyptic film. It's all big corporations that run everything. They're in charge. There's no more government anymore. And nobody even knows what happened because you're not allowed to talk about it. They can't find anything in the library, nothing. That's one of the things that James Caan's character, Jonathan, is trying to do What the hell happened during the so-called corporate wars? I can't even find a book on the subject. No one will tell me anything. Anyone who's old enough to remember anything from it is like, don't ask me. They're all scared. But yeah, it's a great example of a of companies getting too big. Helter says people think they have so much freedom and choice when it comes to the vast numbers of foods and drinks, but there's no choice when it comes to important stuff like voting. Yeah. Well, that's part of the illusion of your freedom. And if you ever hear anybody argue this, and I've seen man on the street kind of interviews and stuff like this, Alex Jones did one once that was interesting. I'm probably going to get a strike for mentioning his name. I'm getting a prompt telling me that ScrewTube is just now giving people notifications. I set a notification on Prepper University for Coffee Talk, just anecdotally here, to alert me when Coffee Talk went live, and it just now sent me the prompt. And remember, I set these up at like 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. It just now gave me the prompt to let me know that I'm live. Isn't that great? Thanks, ScrewTube. Thanks for letting people know. But yeah, he did a man on the street thing, and the guy was talking about freedom. And it was like, of course I'm free. I mean, you see me here. I'm walking up and down the street. That's not freedom. Okay? That's a liberty. You're at liberty to walk up and down the street. But if they tell you you can't, you better go your ass home, or you're going to go to jail. You don't have freedom. Me being able to pick from 40 different brands of cereal is not freedom. You know, being able to select between 300 really shitty television stations on my little cable box. I don't have cable, but just making the example is not freedom. That's not freedom. Most people have no concept of what freedom would even look like or even close to it. You know what I mean? I'm sure some of you do. Urban says, for British Columbia residents, our illusion of freedom has certainly been blown. We are the last region in the world that still practices coercion of healthcare workers and others. No jab, no job. Yeah, I know. Well, a lot of people in the United States lost their jobs. I mean, they're sitting there crying, oh, we have shortages of police, shortages of firefighters, shortages of EMT workers and nurses and doctors. You fired them all for refusing to do this. Ironically, though, in the case of the people who worked in the medical industry, however, many of them pushed for everyone else to do it until it was their turn, and they were like, I don't want that. And then you lost your job. So that's kind of, you know, some irony there. There's some irony there for you, but you see my point. You fired everybody. You threw them out. Now you're like, oh, we don't have enough firefighters. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why that is. Oh my God. And we're going to jump all the way to Scotland. Who wants to go to Scotland? Bonnie, Scotland. If it comes up. Because it looks like I'm getting choppy. Am I getting choppy? Come on now. Here we go. The week in the UK. Week in the UK. A two-tier society, the new hate crime law in Scotland. Because they've got this going now, and it's kind of ridiculous. And it asks a rhetorical question. What do a sex shop, a mushroom farm, and a hate monster have in common, asks the BBC. They're all at the heart of a blazing row about prejudice, offence, and freedom of speech in Scotland, ignited by the Hate Crime and Public Order Act, which comes into force on April 1st. Supporters say the new legislation is a serious and essential attempt to make Scotland a more tolerant society by force, says the broadcaster, but critics say the illiberal law is a scandal. The new legislation criminalizes threatening or abusive behavior, which is intended to stir up hate against someone who possesses or appears to possess certain characteristics in their age, disability, religion, sexual orientation, transmogrified identity, or variations in sex characteristics, Race is already included under the Public Order Act from 1986, but the controversial admission of sex has been criticized by some feminist groups, according to the BBC. Scotland is about to become a two-tier society, wrote Jim Spence for the Courier, where some folk are given protection by the law from some kinds of hate crimes, while others will simply have to suck up abuse. You mean like everyone else does? For example, while it would be an offense to stir up hate against a transmogrified person, it won't break the law to stir up hate against women. I seriously doubt you get away with publicly bashing a female. Harassment or threatening behavior is already illegal. See? So what's the point of this law? So the purpose is clearly to criminalize speech which some minority groups find offensive or abusive, said Lane McWhorter in the Spectator. It gives carte blanche to anyone who feels they have been misgendered, ridiculed, or that their religion has been disrespected to leap to their nearest reporting center to ventilate their hurt feelings. Third-party reporting centers will allow victims or witnesses who don't feel comfortable going to the police to make an allegation. The inclusion of places such as a mushroom farm in East Lothian and Luke and Jack's sex shop in Glasgow have raised eyebrows, said the BBC. An awareness campaign for the new law has also drawn criticism. The Police Scotland video featuring a character called the Hate Monster who gets bigger and bigger until his weighing ye doom has been ridiculed as patronizing, said the BBC, and led to police being accused of trivializing hate crimes. Okay, I don't know anything about that commercial, but this sounds like America's old anti-bullying program, and I'm going to explain it here in a second as I catch up here. Brian says his dad's job told their employees if they're not jabbed by a certain date, don't come back. Quite an ultimatum. Exactly. And Paul says, not Scotland. It's too cold. Is it? Urban says, has the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland been replaced with an invasive species yet? Not yet. And H12 says he's in Minnesota and he doesn't care about cold. J40 says, mind control laws brought by the Ministry of Truth. Dragon says restricting speech does little to change the mind of hate-filled bigot. Just give them validation for the persecution complex that seems so common with them. And here's the thing. This is called an anti-bullying program, and they have that in the United States. It was a huge problem when I was still living in Topeka, and I had a kid in middle school. My son was in middle school, okay? And what they would do is you'd have a card, and you could anonymously fill out a card against anybody. Jimmy is picking on me. Okay, Jimmy called me a fag, and I write that on the thing. Jimmy tried to touch my balls. And then I put the card in the anonymous box because it's anonymous. You don't have to write your name on it. No one can see you. I slip it in the box, right? Now, Jimmy didn't do anything to me. I just don't like Jimmy, and I'm going to reverse bully him by saying he tried to grab my twigs and berries. Now he's got to sit in the counselor's office with the principal, the vice principal, the counselor, the school psychologist, and the school social worker drilling him for 4 hours without his parent about how come he's going around touching people in their secret place. And he didn't do shit. And that was going on the entire time that he was in junior high school. That went on. And I could not put him in public school. I mean, I could not put him in homeschool him, whatever, because of the order, by the way, because I used to homeschool my kids. And I mentioned this last week about my ex and that they were court ordered into public school. I couldn't get it reversed. So I couldn't get out of it. Don't even get me started on family court. Because I always tried to homeschool my own kids, or at least put them in a private school, and I couldn't do it. But that's what was going on. And so if you wanted to screw somebody up, fill out a bully card, put it in the anonymous box. Next thing you know, they're being interrogated for hours over something that they weren't even responsible for. This is a huge can of worms for Scotland, because you don't like somebody. I don't like my neighbor. I don't like this person. I don't like that person. Oh, let me fill out a card and put it in the box, and they'll get screwed. That's what's going to happen. Puck says religion, huh? I wonder which ones they're talking about. Is it Christian? Is it? Helter says I didn't know Orwell had been inspired by the SNP. No kidding. Reverse inspired. And Urban says, oh, but thousands of Hamas supporters can go through a Jewish neighborhood while screaming anti-Jewish rhetoric and for the destruction of Israel, and that's not even a blip on the law enforcement record. I know. And Urban says court orders into public schools is the only way that pedos and weirdos will be able to bring up the numbers of kids for them to have access to. Scary. But that is what is going on in Scotland. And it's going to work out so great for them. I can already see the direction that that's headed in, and it's bad. It's very bad for them. It's going to be a nightmare. And we'll see if anything is done about it. Will they reverse it? Will they change their mind? Will they realize it was a mistake and undo it? Because that's a huge mistake. That's a huge mistake. It's acting up again. Oh, I'm bouncing around here. Hold on. Are you hearing me clearly, people? Up. On my end, it's acting up, and I'm still transmitting properly because I'm trying to read. Child abuse. I know. I couldn't get that changed until I moved from Topeka to Illinois, and then I was able to go to public school. The family, yeah, I'm sorry, very distracted because I keep getting all these prompts from Restream telling me there's problems. The family court order in Kansas can't be superimposed on another state. I'm still freezing up. I'm freezing up on here, and I don't know if you're having issues, people. So hopefully looks okay, and we can. This is very frustrating for me, because I try to do my to give a good presentation, and then I have issues. I have issues with Restream now. Brian says it's even more ridiculous when schools put up signs saying this is a new no bully zone utopian environment. Yeah, and it isn't. Semper Fi says I sound good. Paul says yes. And then H12 says I'm cutting out, freezing up. Yeah, I got a prompt, and that happened a couple of times last week. So hopefully we're back on track here. Urban says, unfortunately, the grooming is ignored by most people I know. They think I'm overreacting about the rainbow crosswalks in every school parking lot in lower mainland British Columbia. It's bad. No child should be exposed in a public school setting to concepts of sexuality, period. Paul says it's because of what I'm talking about. Yeah, do you think it's ScrewTube? And H12 says, it's okay again now. Good. Sorry about that. I try my best. Furious resident in AOC's district says migrants turn neighborhood into epicenter of crime and prostitution. Well, we knew that. We knew that. And we saw the video last week. Of the streets in New York. And here it is. Here's the clip running for those of you who can see. And it looks like an outdoor marketplace. And he's complaining about, and he was on the TV. That's a prostitute, by the way, who they're showing now. More prostitutes. That's why the face is blurred out on that woman. That all of the boroughs out there, blocks and blocks, are full of girls selling themselves, which is what these two are doing. The baby bottle sitting on the step there was a nice touch, by the way. I like that. Baby, she's out there whoring for her baby, I guess. But blocks and blocks of this mess with like tarps and things on the ground, selling shoes, selling clothes, selling knickknacks, selling kitchen accessories, whatever, new and used goods. Prostitutes walking up and down the street, people getting mugged, pickpockets. This is what he's complaining about. It's out of control. Look at this. For those of you who can see, mounds and mounds of clothing, probably misappropriated from the shelters that they're living in or from some charity organization. Streetwalkers, not that they didn't have them in New York anyway, but, out in broad daylight now, wandering around in the street. And that's what they're complaining about. We showed the video last week. And why is this a surprise to anyone? H12 says it's a bazaar. Yeah, basically, this is something that needs to be kept in mind. What you see there is commonplace in the countries where these people are coming from. See the girls lined up? Their faces are blurred out there. They got AOC in the middle here. A row of prostitutes. Mountains of clothing on the street corner going on for blocks and blocks. This is what you see when you go to a lot of these countries. Exactly. It's like a bazaar. That's normal for them to do this, when you go into some of these countries and you're outside of the tourist area. Let me specify, like if you took a cruise and they stop off in Mexico, the place where they land is controlled by Carnival Cruise or wherever. They kind of own that area. So because they want to make sure you're safe and accounted for. Where if you go into the real country, this is what you see. Trash in the streets, vendors all over the place, prostitutes, pickpockets. This is normal for them. And they shouldn't be surprised. Puck says, are you close enough to Atlanta to be prosecuted by Fani Willis? No, I'm not. I'm not in Fulton County. She can't get to me. No. If she remains a prosecutor, we'll see how things work out. She's slipped under the radar so far because the judge was very lenient with her. Again, as I pointed out, the judge is up for re-election, and so he doesn't want to step on too many toes because she should have been held in contempt and charged with perjury on the stand, and was not. Urban says Vancouver has tried and failed to get rid of the blanket parties along the streets selling hot items. And that's a very serious thing in New York. They don't like that. It's illegal. If I were to do this in New York, they tell me to clean up, pack up, and go home or go to jail. But quite frankly, when it's going on for like 8-10 city blocks, how do you put an end to that? How do you stop it? How do you arrest all those people? Unless you're going to deport them. Yeah, that's an idea. You send them back where they came from and let them do that in their own country. Puck says it demonstrates they have no intention of assimilating. No. And that's a good point. Like I said, this is common for them. This is how they live. And there's one of the videos again under the bridge here in Brooklyn. I think that's Brooklyn. People selling crap in the street. Oh, freaking ads again. I think these ads mess me up too, and I can't get rid of them because the ad blocker slows me down even worse. Selling garbage in the street, prostitutes, pickpockets, muggings, throwing trash all over the streets. Very, very commonplace. Very normal where these people come from. I mean, New York's already a mess. This is just making it worse. And where are they getting all this shit? I guarantee you they didn't buy it. Where's it all coming from? Hey, maybe while they're all out here selling their garbage, the police could be out in front of the motels and shelters and reacquiring all those stolen scooters and electric bikes that they stole. Maybe that would be a great option to recover some of that, some of those stolen mopeds for everybody. Monkey says, from what they heard, the guy that the judge nepotomized is decided to walk off from Trump's Georgia case about 30 to 40 minutes after the judge gave her the ultimatum. Yeah. Yeah, that was the ultimatum that was given. Either you get off the case or you discharge your so-called special investigator. And yeah, he resigned. I mean, who cares? He's already made $1.5 million out of it. He's already made like $1.5 million. What the hell does he care now? He'll care if they investigate the extent of his payments and whether they were justified. He could end up in a lot of trouble for that connection if it's pursued. Puck says, find a fire hydrant and hook up a fire hose. Problem solved. I wish. And Flukeman says, open 2 carpet stores next to each other, one selling U.S. flags, the other sells Palestinian flags, and see which one gets shut down. Ouch. Monkey says the word was nepotism. Okay. It just, I see what you're saying, is where you get the job or appointed due to being related. Yeah. Because that you can make the argument for nepotism where that's concerned. Obviously, there's a special interest there. And on top of that, she may have financially benefited from it as well. They could have had some side deal connected to it. Besides which, he wanted nothing to do with her after that anyways, because she threw him under the bus. She said in court that he couldn't perform in bed. And then said, and then after that, said that she's not about to throw a black man under the bus in court. Bitch, you just did. You just did. You just said dude's willy man doesn't work. In open court, on camera. And then you're like, oh, I'm not going to throw a black man under the bus. Yeah, that's great. Puck says, will Fani Willis still vacation with her boyfriend? I don't think that relationship's ongoing any further at this point, unless he's just a glutton for punishment. After she again said in open court that stuff doesn't work downstairs, there's something wrong with the plumbing. Oh man, I gotta tell you, these people, the attitudes. But, while we're on the subject, we may as well talk about reparations. Anybody up for a reparations discussion? From EUR Web. EUR Web has this article. Reparations activists demand tax breaks for the Black community. Oh, is that how you're going to do it? Okay. Reparations activists calling for tax breaks for Black people. During a recent episode of Native Land Podcast, Tiffany Cross, political advocate Angela Rye, and former Democrat politician Andrew Gilliam explained why black people should be exempt from taxes as reparations, New York Post reports. They cited a quote from actor Terrence Howard, who reportedly said it is immoral for the United States government to charge taxes to the descendants of slaves. Cross noted that Howard was making a legitimate point. She said, "We have never been paid. We have never had any reparations. We've never seen the benefits." But she's a wealthy black woman. But she's never benefited. I guess she's got a foot on her neck. It's keeping her down. I don't know how we would make this happen, but it would be completely down for some. So I would be completely down for some sort of policy that says yes, you are exempt from paying taxes. Cross added in the clip below. I don't need to play the clip. Cross also noted that given the wealth generated by black people for the country, there's a debt owed for their contribution to making the U.S. a superpower. Okay, wealth generated by black people, because there are wealthy black people, then do they need reparations? And is this woman, Cross, an actual slave descendant, that she says we have never been paid, we have never had any reparations, we have never seen the benefits? Is she a slave descendant? I bet you she's not. I'm willing to bet she isn't. There's very few. If we were the wealthy 1%, they would have come up with that rule for us already, Gilliam added. Really? So you think if you were the wealthy 1%, of which there are several black people in the United States that fall into that category, not all white people are billionaires or millionaires that are in the hundreds of millions. Meanwhile, Daily Mail reports that reparations activists have installed billboards in Chicago advocating for exclusive allocations for black individuals on the city's $6,000 annual property taxes. Yeah, in Illinois, 6,000 is scraping the barrel. It's more than that. It depends on where you live. We have a problem where our black citizens in Chicago are being kicked or forced out of Chicago and they're going to the southern states to live comfortably, said Howard Ray Jr., founder of Reconstruction-Era Reparations Act Now. That's a mouthful. I hate when they have these long-ass titles for their organizations. Reconstruction-Era Reparations Act Now. Reran, like rerun from What's Happening. He argues that providing tax relief for black individuals would serve as recompense for the injustices endured through slavery, Jim Crow laws, and racial lynchings. Were you lynched? Was anyone in your family ever actually lynched? Did you or anyone in your family ever live in a Jim Crow state? I'm willing to bet that's going to be negative. That's going to fall into the negative. Oh, man. Urban says, do they not see how racist it is to say you're black, so we give you a tax deal? No, because they'll play up to it if they think they're going to get something out of it. That's the problem. Even if they don't agree with it, they'll pretend to if they think it will benefit them. And again, the more you give, the more they're going to take. It'll never end. It will never end. Puck says George Soros is behind the reparations BS. Bet on it. All people said Terrence Howard is 75% white and his children have even more white lineage. Yeah, but he wants his 25%. Come on, brother. Oh, it kills me. It kills me. Urban says anyone who applies for reparation benefits should have to submit to a DNA test first. Yes. Yes, they should. And most of them won't make it. Dragon says those activists will never stop begging as long as someone can derive political power from it. And remember, it's something I say often, the function of an activist is to pretend to be outraged about something because that's how they get paid. That's how they get paid. That's where the checks come from, is pretending to be outraged. And with that, we're at the top of the hour, so I'll go ahead and start signing off. Sorry for the flubs today. I don't know what's going on with that. If it's not too late to switch back to StreamYard, I will see, because I don't think I had as many problems with StreamYard as I have had with Restream recently. Again, this is Coffee Talk, or at Coffee Talk Live, or at Coffee Talk, at Prepper University on YouTube, as well as at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. I want to make one more quick point here from Fluke Man. It says Hong Kong would never ask the Brits for reparations. Attacked Hong Kong, tricked them into taking opium. They'd rather go back to British rule than buy China, even though they are the same race. Yeah, they've never asked. I couldn't imagine them asking the British Empire for reparations for the Opium Wars. Exactly. So, again, thanks to everybody who was able to join us here today. Special thanks to Brian for making a donation to the channel. Always appreciated, very much needed, and very helpful. And I hope, of course, as always, that everybody got something out of the conversation. And with that, we will go ahead and sign off and see you again